Hi, thank you for having me here today. I'm just sorry that I can't be there in person. My name is Tiina Urv, and I work as a program director in the Division of Rare Diseases Research Innovation at the National Centers for Advancing Translational Sciences at the National Institutes of Health. I'm here to tell you about the Rare Disease Clinical Research Network, or RDCRN. For those of you who might not know, the RDCRN was established as part of the Rare Diseases Act of 2002, and the language directed the NIH to establish regional centers of excellence. The first centers were funded in 2003 and have been continuously funded every 5 years since that time. The current RDCRN is a network of 20 different consortia, or network of networks, with the support of a data management and coordinating center. NCATS partners with 10 NIH institutes and centers for the program. The NIH mechanism used to support the network is a U54, a cooperative agreement, and that means that there's significant programmatic involvement from the NIH program officials. There are research teams, and each consortium also is required to have significant participation by patients in our patient advocacy groups. We currently work with 166 different patient advocacy groups within the network. The focus of the network is clinical trial readiness, studies that move clinical groups closer to successful clinical trials. For example, natural history studies, or the identification of biomarkers, or the development of endpoints for clinical trials. Each individual consortium must study 3 or more disorders. They consist of multiple sites. They conduct 3 to 5 clinical studies, and they have a competitive pilot program for other research studies. They also importantly have a career enhancement program that they design themselves to help promote the younger generation or new investigators interested in rare disease. And again, they have a fully integrated patient advocacy group. The Data Management and Coordinating Center provides support for both individual consortium and the network as a whole. The DMCC provides administrative support that facilitates the operations, governance, and communication of the network. Clinical research is supported that coordinates best practices and standardization and good data practices across the network. There's data management that, in cooperation with NCATS, ITRB, builds and maintains secure infrastructure. And there's a engagement and dissemination core that supports and promotes patient engagement and broad outreach to disseminate the information that is gathered broadly. The RDCRN has a broad reach. Currently within the network, we have 358 active consortia sites, of which 197 are unique sites. What does that mean? For example, CHOP has 9 different consortia conducting research as part of the RDCRN at that site. Consortia also partner internationally, and this is where you all come in. 11 countries having active research sites across the network. So we hope to have outreach and a more diverse population for the samples for the researchers to sample. The RDCRN also have numerous consortia sites that are co-located with the CTSA sites that are also funded by NCATS. The RDCRN leadership has 3 branches: the PI leadership team, and then the CPAG leadership team, and they make up the executive leadership committee. So as you can see, the patient advocacy groups play an important role in our network. This group is coordinated by the Data Management and Coordinating Center, which is located at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Medical Center, and I help manage the program. And this group serves as a vetting body of activities within the network. The network also has a wide variety of working and interest groups, all focused on improving research. Each consortium has the opportunity to join a committee, and every committee has researchers, patient advocacy groups, NIH, and Data Management Coordinating Center participants represented. When we were preparing to cycle into RDCRN4, one of the things we did was to evaluate and update the program. We felt data was of primary importance, and we wanted to take an economies of scale approach of sharing tools in the environment. The working environment that we have is the operational environment, where the different consortia has their sites. The DMCC provides an internal site where tools are available to be shared across the consortia. Tools such as REDCap, Ombra, Box, SAS, RStudio. So individual consortia don't have to buy licenses for this. They're all provided by the RDCRN. This cloud environment lives at NCATS, but is managed by the Data Management and Coordinating Center. The environment was developed through close collaboration with NCATS technical team, and to date, NCATS has been funding all the cloud-related costs of security. So one of the things when we were changing how the network was managed was we were wondering if we built all these things, would they come and use them? And they have been, as you can see from the slide. Much of this can be attributed to reaching out to the investigators to find out what types of tools they need and finding tools that would be relevant for multiple clinical sites. And we also often provide a sandbox environment so they can try out the tools to see which ones have the best fit for them. A benefit of working at the NIH is you know what's coming down the pike. And one thing we know is that data sharing was coming down the road, and we started implementing this early. What this means for the RDCRN is that we built and we developed a data sharing environment, or we're in the process of it in this current cycle. So as you can see is the data comes from the operational environment, and the DMCC manages the data and makes sure that the data is de-identified, that the metadata is there so that others can use the data, and that we have data use limitations, and it's then passed on to the NCATS team to the shared environment, which has NIH governance and NIH managed security and controlled access. In this way, we hope people will share the data that we've developed and established in the RDCRN. Well, how are we doing? So we wanted to take a look at some of the metrics to see. This program's been funded for a long time. We wanted to know how it's doing. So we used NIH portfolio management tools to find publications from 28 consortia that have been funded in the first 3 cycles. There were 2,763 papers published between 2004 and 2020. Individual consortia averaged about 9 papers per year. These are very productive groups. The same data was used to identify organizations that had published at least 5 different papers. And what we're finding is the reach of the network has been expanding, and that the number of research organizations have stayed the same, but there's been an increased number of international collaborations within our network. These are the co-authorship networks that you can see below, showing an increased collaboration over time. Despite the large increase in the size of the network, the number of clusters remain the same. So that basically means there are a lot of external people joining the network, which is great, and we like to see that. And let's look at how our impact has been doing on translational outcomes. We can split the clinical trials into 2 categories. Those that are funded directly by the U54 grant, and those that are not funded directly but leverage what has been developed using this grant. Predominantly, we funded phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials, and currently 18 trials are funded by the RDCRN. But what's really interesting, I find, is the RDCRN associated trials, which are predominantly phase 2 and 3 clinical trials. And there are at least 13 ongoing clinical trials such as this. And funding has been, for these trials, has been by external sources, industry, different institutes and centers, the FDA, patient advocacy groups have funded these studies, and they have leveraged the data points or the patient populations and clinical endpoints and biomarkers and safety and efficacy data that we've established in the RDCRN To date, the RDCRN has contributed to 8 FDA-approved treatments for rare disease, and we're pretty proud of that. So one of the things that we do with the RDCRN that might be a little bit different than other groups is we really look at other problems, not just the science, operational challenges, financial administrative challenges, and how we can address those. So we know that bottlenecks in rare disease therapeutic development it's slow, expensive, and the data is poor quality. So we've really worked on getting consortia and patient advocacy group involvement, develop natural history studies, outcome measures, and biomarkers that industry can use. We also have the shared tools which save on expenses, and we've also focused on fair data principles, reproducibility and transparency, and very strong data practices. So the data that comes in and out of the network is strong and reliable. So what we're really doing is turning many consortia into a research community. I encourage you to look at our website, rarediseasesnetwork.org, where there are links to the individual websites of the 20 consortium. And I thank you for your time.